trying really hard not to be incredibly excited about this yarn because if it doesn't work, I'm gonna be so unbelievably sad. Granny squares are my go-to. I mean, they are everywhere in the yarn dungeon at all times. Sometimes I have projects ready for them, other times I just make them because I need something in between bigger projects, and I mean, it's like bite size, you know, one little granny square and then done. Or if I'm listening to an audiobook and I need to switch up for a second. Moral of the story, I make so many granny squares. When I saw that Yarnspiration was dropping this granny all-in-one square, it was very hard not to get my hopes up. What they're saying is that I can make a granny square start to finish from this. The color changes for me, and the only ends that I have are the starting and the finish end. Please, please work. What is up, ghouls? Welcome to the Yarn Dungeon. We are gonna chat about this. That got me immediately. I'm not even gonna lie about this. As soon as I saw it on their site pop up, the granny all-in-one square, I ordered some. I freaking love granny squares. I do them all the time. So it would save me so much time if I didn't have to weave in all of the ends for every single color change. The concept behind this is that it's all in one. So they have figured everything out. The color change is gonna happen naturally with this particular granny square that they have. I think it says it's on the inside. Pattern on the inside, the super cute sweater vest that I would love to make. It's also available on their site too. I love when they do this. This is something new that they're putting out, so I wanna see it worked up in different patterns with different variations. Especially if you're new to crochet, it's really nice to have, okay, I can make your granny square, but what can I make from that? And they have quite a few patterns on their site. One thing that I'm a little bit concerned about, and it's just totally a me thing, is the tension is all figured out, and I know that my tension is pretty loose. It's how I've always crocheted, it works for me, but it's not gonna work for this if it doesn't match up with how they've set it out. Since the color changes automatically, if I don't reach that gauge, the illusion of the easy to make granny square is not gonna be there. This is a medium number 4 weight. It can be thrown in the wash and the dryer, big fan of that. Suggesting a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, and it makes a 15 by 15 centimeter square or a 6 by 6 inch square. Also really nice to know in case I want to make a different pattern with these squares, what it's going to be set up, how much of this yarn that I need. I know that I'm getting ahead of myself and assuming that I'm going to love this. One ball of yarn makes 14 granny squares, and then it shows that I'm supposed to pull it from the middle, not the outside. That actually is very important because the way that they have the color set up, it's almost like two different lines of the same yarn. So one is a dark side and one is a light side. They have different colors set up inside the granny square, and then there is a border of either white yarn or black yarn. I'm very happy that they did that. I got all of the colors that have the black yarn incorporated into it, or all the ones that were available anyways. The white ones, it's nice that they have it, but for me, it's just not something that I would ever reach for. If they only had the one part of this line, it just would not have been for me. Moody Cherry, and it does say right in front of it, black. So there's gonna be a black border for that granny square. Black Moody Cherry, and what is this? Black Dove. I also got the Cyberleaf. This one is freaking sick. There's a pattern for a cardigan on their sites. I would love to make a version with this color. This one is giving Coraline vibes with the Hyper Violets. The dark purple, little specks of magenta almost like in there. The tunnel that Coraline goes through. Yeah, this color right here. Carnation Code. Could be a fun Halloween type of vibe. 5 colors, that's what was available at my Joann's. The price for one of these is $9.49. They have it on sale at this moment for $6.99, and I was also able to stack a coupon for purchase online, pick up in store, so I got another 20% off of that. Just to start out, I am going to use the 5.5 millimeter crochet hook that they're suggesting. I opened up one of the other skeins of yarn, and the pattern is on the inside for the crochet vest. Also, there's a little graph for what the square is going to look like, and right here is where the entire pattern starts. gonna pull out a little bit. It is kind of tight to pull the yarn out, which I don't normally like that, but maybe I should leave it that way because it would encourage me to have a little bit of tighter tension. Does it say for the tail how long to keep? We'll just go with this little tiny bit here. First attempt, and I was really in my head about the tension because look at all that color that I have left. Like that is where I'm supposed to be changing. I had plenty. I'm pretty happy with the tension that I'm holding on my hook though. It's not so incredibly tight that it hurts my fingers, but it is a little bit tighter than what I would normally use. For the second round, I'm gonna leave the tail a little bit longer, maybe just measure this part and have the tail be this, like not include here, just this part. Hopefully I'll be a little bit closer this time. Second attempt, I went the complete opposite way, and now we don't have enough. The color change has already started right here. Apparently that is too long of a tail. Hopefully attempt number 3 can be a nice happy medium. It is a little bit stressful too, knowing that I need to have the tension spot on in order for this to work. Okay, what do we think? Does that look happy medium? I'm gonna try it anyways. Still not quite right. Attempt number 4. This is the closest that I've gotten so far. It's just the very last stitch that had a color change before it was supposed to. I might just roll with this one and see how far, like if it works or if one chain off makes a big difference between all of it. I mean, I'm sure it will make a difference. I'm just tired of doing the same tiny little square over and over again, and I want to actually make a granny square. I'm going with this one. We'll see how it turns out. Again, tension was a little too tight. I have all of this pink left. This one was much better. Almost exactly where I'm supposed to be. Well, it will be because let me count. 1, 2, 3, slip stitch to attach. Okay, exactly where it's supposed to change. That is some pure happiness right there. Can I do it for the next row? That's the question. Little bit off on this one, but I think it's okay because it's just like the first row I did where the very last stitch has a little color change. You can hardly tell once the next row is on it. So this is the one and we can't even see that anymore. How many rows do I have left? 4 or 5. So 2 more rows in order to finish up this very first granny square. Happy with how my first square turned out. This is the closest color change that I've had from any of these rows. So I feel like I'm getting the hang of the tension that they want for this pattern. I'm going to switch over to this dove color now, right? Yeah, dove, and make a few more of these. Hopefully it'll get a little bit easier because it was really annoying to have to take apart the row that I'd just done. So it was 6 or 7 times that I had to take apart a row, which I don't love because I could have made a couple of granny squares in the amount of time that it took me to do this, but it's a completely new thing. So I knew it was gonna be a learning curve of figuring out how they wanted it to land. On their actual site, they have 2 full pages of patterns. Eventually, I would love to make those. Total cozy vibes. On the top, it says Step into your granny square era. If you're not there yet, you are totally missing out. Granny squares are amazing. There's also a knitted sweater, which doesn't use the granny square concept of this, but it shows you that you can make a nice stripy sweater. Just because it's so cold out right now, I'm really feeling these granny square fingerless mitts. It'd be very easy to do as well. I think it's just 4 granny squares, a little bit of extra to seam everything together. Super quick project. I have officially made it through an entire skein of this yarn, and I've been working with it for a couple of days now. Feel comfortable in saying my total review of this yarn. Let's start back to when I first was playing around with this. It was a little frustrating. I think if you already have your tension figured out and you know how everything is set up, you've made this granny square. Let me grab one of them. You've made these granny squares so many times, and this pattern in particular, it's going to be a rough start, I think. Like that's my opinion. After I made about 7 of these, and every single one of them, I would have to, somewhere in here, rip that row out and start over, because I would get to, well, this one is my very final one where I didn't have enough yarn, but I would get to a section where I just couldn't get that color change to work the way that I wanted it to. So I'd rip that row out and start over again. It felt like I was wasting time because, again, I've worked this pattern up many, many times. I know how to do it. I've made cardigans, I've made blankets. And so it was dragging a little bit. Once I got to about the 10th square in the skein that I officially have finished, things moved a little bit quicker, and I was almost spot on with every single one after the 10th. And I learned that I was cutting the ends too long, because this is my final one, and no matter how many times I redid that row, I did not have enough of the center color to not have this little bit of a change. So like the very last double crochet, no matter how I worked it up, I always had it as a different color. I even bumped it down to a 5mm, which I didn't want to do, but I tried it out. I did not like that at all because it kept getting caught on my hook, since the yarn and the hook didn't really match up. I didn't like that. So I just accepted that this last one was my learning square, and then started on to a brand new skein of yarn, and decided that 4 inches was about the tail that I needed to make for each one of these. And that is start and finish. So 4 inches here. This one is a lot shorter, and that one is a lot longer. I figured it out eventually. Now that I have things going, and I feel like I know the exact tension that they have written for this pattern of where the colors change, I'm moving a little bit faster, and I'm seeing the potential that this yarn could bring. The main thing is traveling. Having to throw just this one skein in a tote, grab my crochet hook, my notions, yarn needle, scissors, things like that, throw that in the tote and go is gonna be so much easier. Instead of having 4 or 5 different skeins of all different colors, throw that in a tote, then get into the car. I really don't travel with these types of projects for that reason. I like to have everything set up, nice and organized, and if I need to get into the car and then take it out, then put it away, and then take it back out at the place that I get to, I don't enjoy that. So for me, this is definitely going to be a useful thing to have on hand, and this color in particular. I will use all the rest of the colors that I have, especially the Coraline one. I'm thinking I'm going to put all of it together and use the blanket pattern that they have on their site. I did not even work up this color just because I was so focused on getting everything down that I could work up a start to finish granny square, and the color change was perfect that I didn't even work this one up. So this one is going to be next. It's going to look like a scrappy granny square yarn without having all of the scrappy ends to it. And we talk about my skirt too, because this was so easy to put together. All the rest of my jean skirts are in danger of being covered in granny squares. Front pockets, back pockets. I was even thinking of making these a little bit smaller and throwing them all over the skirt, seaming it together very roughly, make it look tattered and almost like it's being held together by the granny squares. I don't know, I have a lot of ideas now. And that's a fun yarn to me. If I want to make more projects with this yarn, it means that I'm gonna keep it. It means that it's working for me. The things that I think I'm gonna use this for the most, and this color in particular, are big projects like blankets and traveling. I think I am gonna get more of this yarn, which for me, that means it's a yes. Like, I like this yarn enough that I'm gonna get more of it. For beginners, it's kind of a toss-up, and I don't know that I would suggest it or not, because for me, like thinking back to when I first started, this probably would not have worked because my tension was so loose that I might have got more frustrated than anything, and I may not have kept going on my projects. On the other side, it's nice to have a full guide of what tension looks like, and it's going to be very cut and dry of here's the start color, here's the end color. In between that, I need to get this many stitches. So I don't know. I think if you want to try it, I'd say try it. I don't think that this is going to replace anything. I think there's going to be a lot of people that it does work for, and many ghouls out there that are going to get frustrated with it because of the fact that the tension is just not where they want it to be. And that's such a huge factor in crocheting that it can end a project. So for me, this is a yes. I'm going to keep working up projects with it, have it in the yarn dungeon, but that's only after I went through an entire skein. If I would have stopped after making just a couple of these squares, it would have been a no for me. You have to play around with it a little bit to fully grasp if it's something that's gonna work for you. But I like it, especially with traveling. I know I've said that so many times, but it's gonna be so nice to just throw one thing in a tote and go and have this really fun project afterwards. Also, the fact that they have the colors all picked out, like this color combination, I don't know that I would have put all these colors together, but I love them. So that in and of itself is also kind of fun because now I have different projects in mind. It sparked some creativity for me, which again is something that I want to see in a brand new yarn. I want it to be fun. I want it to be something I'm going to reach for, and I am excited to keep going with this color. So I know that wasn't a definitive yes, grab this yarn out, try it, I'm super excited about it, or no, absolutely, don't even put it in your yarn dungeon. It's just one of those yarns. You have to try it and see if it works for you. If you've already grabbed some, let me know in the comments. How do you feel? Are you an absolute yes, absolute no? Or are you kind of like me in between where it's gonna depend on the pattern and how I'm using it, where I'm going type of thing? I'm gonna let you ghouls go for today, but I'm glad that you could stop by the yarn dungeon and we can have a chat about this brand new yarn. Have a fantastically spooky rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video.